board of directors for the bank there in Rexburg. Well, I didn't know they had that many horses left.
It looks like they don't have much to eat.
Huh. Well,
Grandma Argle, or Grandma Chad's mother, told about her dad taking the cows across the river right here. And in the fall when it was cold, and when he went out there the next morning, it would have been so cold that the cows froze to death right in their tracks. They were still standing up and they were dead. And there was a winter like that was terrible down in Utah. My grandpa Marshall herded cows, and they had cattle down there, and those cows died. They had a lot of death during one of those very cold winters.
Oh, I'm surprised Blair's got that many ponies left.
Well, let's go. He might just be keeping some.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. It could be McGarry's too.
So it was right down here that the cows got frozen.
There was a wild turkey right there.
Was there?
Yeah. Grandpa Fisher had both sides of the road here, all of this stuff. The river ran down through here.
There's the river.
And it's just been sold off the last 20 years. Some outfit in California bought it for a hunting area. But these were all his fields at one time.
I'd like to take him over to Egypt and show him the...
Over where?
Over to Egypt and show him the graves of all of my grandma and grandpa, my great-grandma and grandpa. So Gustav can get pictures of those. Well, there was a road that went down here in the middle of all this stuff. River bottoms. Here's the river he took him across. It's kind of running over right now.
Yeah, it
with
splits.
spring.
There's a couple of channels that breaks up right through here with islands.
But that house we went by, they said they had that orchard all around it. That it was just... it looked like a flower garden, a garden of Eden. Grandma loved flowers and loved plants. You know, everybody kept their fruit trees and things so they could eat. You know, and have they all pretty well grew their own produce of everything that they ate. And then they'd can it.
This used to be the main channel. Looks like the channel's switched. It's gone over there on that other side now. But when I was a kid, this was the main one right here. Okay, now you look around this bush right here, and I bet
There's
you'll
a post.
see that old Tom turkey.
Oh, that turkey.
Unless he's gone back
Don't
into
run
the
off
brush.
the road. Don't run off the road hunting for the turkey.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Look.
Did you see him?
Yeah, I saw his tail. He's just walking back in the brush.
He went back into the brush?
Yeah, if you pull forward a little more, I might be able to see him. But
Probably a hen back in there at the nest.
Can't really see anymore.
They used to all go out here on these junipers where the sand hills are and put their horses out there in the winter time. And the horses would be out, go out there and graze, eat at something. I don't know what they eat, but they live out there. But that's what the people, they take all their horses they used all summer and put them out there for the winter time, and they'd only keep around the horses that they used, had to use to get along for the winter, so that they didn't have to provide feed for them for the winter.
Back in there, as far as you can see, just nothing but a bunch of junk.
That's what we need to start getting rid of those pickups around our place. They lived real close in this area. He came here when he was about 10, 11 years old. He ran away from home. His father was very, very strict old Englishman, and Grandpa was a very strong-minded young man. And one day his father went to spank him, and he grabbed the belt from his dad and says, "You make this a good spanking, because this is the last spanking you'll ever give me." And I don't know how close that was from the time he got the spanking until he left, but he left. And he went and got on the train. He got on one of those freight cars, on the train, and came to St. Anthony all by himself. Just bummed a ride like a bum on the railroad. And he had a sister who was a lot older than him that had gotten married. And her name was Emmeline Argyle Romrel. Or Wardle. And he went to see her, but he didn't live with her long. He went as kind of hired out, working for some other people, a man who was a polygamist, who had 2 wives. And Grandpa would go down to the river and bring the water up, so the women would have water for washing the clothes and the dishes and all the things they needed to do to keep things clean. And
this was where I used to go fishing when I was a kid all the time. Right below here. They didn't farm over here. They since sprinkled that, but right down below here there's a big channel on that river that swings over here, and man, there's a lot of fish laying right along the bottom of that. And right here the hill kind of stayed warm and wet. You could big old night crawlers down there to fish with, and this is where Neil Zundel and I used to come and fish all the time. And then there was some warm sloughs up here that you could go catch chubs in. But they've opened up the river bottoms a lot to what it used to be. There used to be just nothing but great big trees, just like you see there, all over, clear through this whole area. But that used to be our old fishing hole right in there. This was Matthys. They used to keep that up so nice. First generation builds it, and the second one exploits it, and the third one sells it.
You better get that on your tape, Gustav. We say that all the time.
All these is all new, all this Stoddard deal.
What is it? The lumber? Stoddard lumber? What is it?
No, it's just, I think he constructs.
Oh, that's Stoddard. Jordan Stoddard.
Now, Grandpa Orgel's house was right down in there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was right down here.
Yeah, I think it was right down in there. Kind of at the edge of
this piece.
the edge of the
Field
there.
I know we tried to go down there. We couldn't go. This road, we took a...
I had Virgin's Jeep once. He was coming here, and this was a wood bridge. And I hit that thing a little fast and spun that Jeep right around on that bridge.
Is that right?
Yeah, I never went off. But
My dad
sure
used to
had a
call
thrill.
Chad the Flying Swede when he was young and driving. He took us up to... Chad took my family up to Pincock swimming once. We went around the corner fast. Chad went around the corner fast, and my dad says, "Now you flying Swede, we aren't in any hurry."
Davidson's used to live. I don't suppose there's one of them around anymore. This was the Blakes. I and Neil came around the corner here in the old truck. I got into some snow or something there and pulled me off. I put a big dent in the fender on Dad's truck. This was Hammond's. The kid I went to school with is in my grade. let's see, where was the Oracle house?
Well, it's not there anymore. So
Right
I don't
in here
know.
somewhere.
Oh, the
Yes.
one that great grandpa Nephi used to live in?
Yeah, the one that Retta and what was his name?
Alvin.
Retta and Alvin.
I don't know. I was only to that house once. It seemed like it was a brick house.
Palmer's. And there was the Orrs, and the Orrs kind of expanded all their kids. And Palmer's was down there. Old Doc Rigby had this whole thing through here. Now they sold off corners and whacked it up into little pieces.
Who owns that? Does Anna Jane own all of?
You know, I don't
Jane?
know who owns that now. I think Anderson's probably got the bulk of it. They built a dang house right over there on the best duck pond in the country.
No, that's a shame to build a house on a duck pond. Especially if it was of your youth.
There used to be really good duck hunting down here. They come from where I lived there and come down through here on all these warm sloughs. It was just a good Saturday all day long trek. You could come down the canals and the sloughs and you'd end up down here at these big warm ponds, and the ducks would come in there and they sure changed it all. There wasn't a house here. The only house that was here was right down here at the end of the road.
Let's go down to the end of the road.
What?
Let's go down to the end of the road. Look at all those little ditches they got in there to irrigate that.
This stayed open all winter. Right there, that's kind of a warm drainage. They got another house over on the other duck pond. There's a really nice one right over in there where that white house is. They'd stay open in the winter. There was enough warm water that seeped out of the side of the hill there that kept them open.
Did you take the ducks home and eat them?
Oh yeah.
And you know his mother would take and pluck the feathers off from the duck's breasts. The soft part down underneath their belly. And she'd put those in bags and keep them, and then she'd make pillows out of them. She always made the duck down pillows.
I can't believe there's as many houses down here as there is. Just all over. When I grew up down here, there was only one house, and that was Lottie Davidson's. And it was right in here. They've torn it down now, it's all gone. But Lottie Davidson lived there, and we lived over here in this other house, and that was the only house.
Is this the house that Grandpa built? Grandpa
Yeah.
Neilson? Now you need a picture of this, Gustav. Pull into Anna Jane's yard. She won't care. The kids need a good picture of this house. If Anna Jane was there, she'd take us on a tour. She might be there. Pull in there.
Oh, I don't want to pull in there.
Pull
The
in there and get a good picture
kid
of
will
that
wonder
house.
what's going on.
Well, what does it matter? She's a friend. Pull in there and get a picture of the house. Grandpa Neilson, his grandfather, built that house from the foundation up. And they've added on this back part on the south side, but that original square house was the house he built.
That was the house that the deer would run around, you know, I told you about, the little deer. Wonder who that is.
Oh, they're probably the grandchildren. But anyway, Grandma and Grandpa Neilson, Chad's parents, when they first got married, lived in one part of the house, and Grandpa lived in the other part of the house.
And we had cows and stuff down through the timber there. Remember
And
the
this
old,
house has been stuccoed. They've stuccoed over the top of that house.
the brick, yeah.
But it was a red brick house. He built a red brick house. Hardly anybody had a brick house then. And he was such a carpenter, you know, great Grandpa Neilson. Just phenomenal. He had worked as a carpenter on those ships as he traveled all around the world. He started in Sweden on those ships as part of their... was he in the military then, Chad, at 14? Or, he started about 14 on those ships in Sweden before he came to America.
Well, he didn't come to America until he was nearly, what, 50?
Mm-hmm. He was just about an old man when he came. But he'd been all over the world. But that's where Chad lived till he was how old, Chad?
7, I think it was, or 6.
He lived there in that house that we just took a picture of.
This was the Bradshaws.
And the Bradshaws,
Tore it all apart.
the wife is another sister to Ora and Minnie. She's another Fisher girl. A sister. That was her son lived there.
This was the old McFarland home. Dean and Jean grew up. This is the roadhouse. Everybody's gone, and there was my swimming hole. There's where we went swimming every day.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the swimming hole. It kind of narrowed it up. It used to be a little wider and put in a cement bridge. That's where everybody in the community come down to swim every 4 o'clock.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, after you got through hoeing potatoes, why you came down here and went swimming till about 6:30, and then you went back and you hoed potatoes till dark. And this was Robert's place. Dad bought that from up underneath when they left underneath the hill there.
Oh, let's stop here. This is Robert's house. Stop and let me get Robert's house, Chad. This is Robert's house. And he built that from a dairy barn. He built that house from had been a dairy barn. And it's really nice inside. And he's been dead quite a while now.
We went up to Ashton and got the trees to cut the lumber for that shed.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Had it sawed up there at the Parker. Bad to see all them dang houses and stuff all over our old duck hunting area. This is the Weiniger tribe. That's the old Weiniger house. And my God.
This is Grandpa Neilson's field. Kessel owns it now, Chet's nephew.
Oh, I've been here before.
Yeah,
That's Kessel's house that he built, right?
That's his new house he built. It's so nice. His wife has cancer now. They're fighting that.
These were some great big old cottonwood trees right there. There's looks like a few shoots come up from the roots, but they were big old trees.
That was Grandpa's field right there too.
And this was their garden. It ran all. This is where.
Grandma raised garden all over right
here. Garden.
Hello.
So we better stop and see Kessel.
How are you?
That's Kessel, isn't it?
I don't think. What? Well, we're bringing our grandsons around to get pictures of them. Under the bridge, and I grabbed her by her dress and pulled her out. I was in the house, and this voice inside of me said, I was peeling an orange. Anne's hungry. Take that orange to Anne. There was a voice, inside of me telling me that. And I walked out, and I caught her just as she started to go underneath that canal bridge, and grabbed her by the dress and pulled her out of that water before she went completely under that bridge. Her head had started to go under the bridge. We better pull in, maybe, Chad.
Well, do you want to pull in or what?
Well, I don't dare not go in a minute. That's Grandma's old house. And I was reading something the other day that said the house used to be a post office. And here's the old bunkhouse. Grandma used to do her canning in there. She'd get that wood stove going and she'd can in there, and she'd put on about 20 quarts at once of corn or beans. She really worked at it. That's a Colorado car. That must be Dan.
Let's go.
This house in front of us is the house that Chad lived in from the time he was about 7 until he married me. And it didn't have this porch on. They had 3 bedrooms, a kitchen and front room, and all the rooms were small. But Grandma kept it absolutely meticulous. And then after we got married, we built this porch on farm. And this here is the bunkhouse. I guess they're getting ready to tear it down. But this is where Grandma did her canning, all her canning in here in this bunkhouse. And she stored things in there for everybody. And Grandma had an enormous garden. Out here where this guy is with the tractor was all her garden. And then she had a garden on the other side of that canal bank that went all the way up to the end of the property. But she raised everything they ate. And she says sometimes it got kind of short some of those years, and they had bread, lots of bread and milk. But she knew how to make do with what she had. She had wonderful berries, things, and she had a lot of fruit trees, pretty flowering bushes and peonies out here in the front of the yard when she was living here. She loved flowers. Her mother loved flowers. So they always kept a lot of pretty flowers around, plants. And this tree behind us is a very interesting tree. You can see it's had a little pruning over the years, and that it's a very rugged tree. But when Chad was little, his grandfather, who lived with Ora and Otto, would swing him in this tree. This very tree all the time. When he loved to swing, and his grandpa loved to swing him. So it was a special old tree. One time, Lad didn't think he had to mind Grandma. He didn't think she could run fast enough to catch him. He started to run away. Grandma got a twitch off in that tree. Went after Laddie, and he found out how fast Grandma could really run. And she caught him and gave him a good little spanking for disobeying. So, hi.
Hey.
How are you? I'm Karen.
Good.
I'm Karen. I'm Chad's wife.
I'm Selena's husband.
I thought that's who you were.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen you since I think you got. Grandpa Neilson would plow and disc these fields and plant them, and his rows were so straight. He always did everything just straight. Everything had to be on precision, didn't it, Kessel? Everything Grandpa did had to be precisely straight, just so.
Rob Joseph.
He was at school right over here, and the school teacher was having marital problems. And so she'd come a day, and then she wouldn't come a day, and then she'd come a week, wouldn't come a week. It got so there's more and more days she didn't come. And all the older kids told the little kids, now don't tell your mother and dad the school teacher's not coming to school. Then we won't have to do any work. So everybody was hush hush. Didn't tell their parents. The school teacher didn't come to school. And in the winter they went out and they ice skated on the canal, and they had a wonderful time. School was the most fun year they'd ever had. They'd eat their lunch when they finally got hungry and go out and play some more. Nobody told their parents that the school teacher was not coming to school.
Go skate on the canal there. They kept the water in the canals then. And they'd freeze over in the whole canal, would be ice, and we'd bring our ice skates. We'd spend all day long ice skating up and down that canal, and then we'd play what's that fox game where you have the circle and fox chases the geese.
I think that's what you called it.
Anyway, when we got bored of skating or tired of skating or cold, why we'd go in the school and get warm, and then we'd play fox and geese. Chase each other around. My first grade was a wonderful educational opportunity. don't think the school board ever did realize that that woman was hardly ever at school. If she came, we had a little refresher course of some kind. Or
Did you learn your ABCs the first year?
I don't remember if I learned anything the first year of school. We might have got through the ABCs.
That's not how they spelled his name, right?
Yeah, I think that's the initial stuff. They spelled it 2 or 3 different ways.
This thing's ajar. Did you see that?
What?
That stone was removed. This is Tad's grave. The war was just about over when he got killed. And this is another John Peter. That's Grandpa's brother, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's Grandpa Neilson's, Otto's brother.
Here's his mother.
Here's his great grandpa, Carl Peter and Lena Neilson. And then we're going to go down here and look at the. Well, if I die, you know where to come to see your ancestors' graves. These people were musicians. Right there. This one is Grandpa Nephi. Doesn't that say Nephi? Yeah, Nephi. This is my great grandfather, Nephi Argle's grave. I don't know if you can get that in for you to see that. Get that writing on there. This is his wife, Catherine Bills. This is the son that died young. As you can see, he was 14. And they were all musicians, the whole family. But this one, Grandpa Argle, I said, was the greatest musician of any of them. And then he died. He died of diabetes. And this one here, these two graves of Elmer Argle and Minnie Luella were my grandmother and grandfather Argle's 2 babies that died. You know, this one lived for a little while, and this one died at birth. See that, and lived about a month. That was their first child. And then over here, I just hate walking on this cemetery. It's just too They're the ones that had those 2 babies I just showed you. This is the grave of my mother and dad. Right here. See all that Western motif on that? My brother designed that. And right here, my aunt and her husband. That was the daughter of Glenn and Minnie. And over here is my Uncle Elmo. He's their only son. And Vilda. So, the family. They're all working. And right down there by that tree is a whole mess of Argos. Grandpa Argos brothers' families. This right in front of us. And I think our burial place is clear across the road, isn't it, Chad?
Gay. I didn't realize she was here.
We just went to her funeral. Gay and Roger went to school with Chad. And Roger and Chad went to college together. So...
Well, there's Marshall.
Well, yeah, but maybe he hasn't died yet.
Doesn't look
Maybe
like
just his wife. See, there's just one grave there.
it. Yeah.
That's probably for his wife, and then that's headstones there ready for him.
Yeah.
Chad went to school with all these people, so he knows them. You know, do them.
Dexter's, Palmer's, Parker's, Marshall's, Moon's, Rydal's. They filled that area up the last 10 years.
Yeah. Well.
house there.
Well, I do always like things how they were old. There's that tree patch we planted. I don't know if it looks like it did very good.
Well,
How long did you live there?
They moved a ditch in there. That ditch wasn't there.
Wasn't it?
I don't think so.
We planted those trees though. And the house was on this side of the garage. Right on this side of the garage when we lived here. But it just burnt down about 5 years ago. They were remodeling and it burnt down in the remodeling job, so they built a whole new home. And there was an enormous big barn. There's one barn still there. And we had this little apartment house we used to rent. Chad fixed
Still
it up.
renting that, huh?
Yeah. But there were some enormous big barns in here they've taken down. See, there's one barn. That's the one we had the sheep in.
Hmm.
One day Chad and I were loading sheep right here, right? Not by this house, but up by that barn. We had some corrals up there and we were loading sheep. Chad was out trying to get him in the truck and I was trying to do something. All of a sudden, we heard the truck start up and that damnable Eric had got in there and turned the key on and the truck started off.
Right inside that shed, I had a tractor and the big weights, you know, that go on the front.
Uh-huh.
And Karen came out and seen I'd taken them weights off there, and she said, "Well, now you lay them things so them kids can't get hurt." And I said, "Well, there's no way." I just laid them right flat on the ground, nothing under 'em, anything. And I'll be darned, it wasn't 3 days later, Eric came in with a broke foot. Eric and Ren had got some levers and pried up those 100-pound weights high enough off the ground that Eric could get his foot underneath it. It dropped on it.
How old were they?
Well,
I don't
Eric
know.
started school here.
What, 6 and 7?
Yeah, about 6 and 7. They're only 11 months
Or
apart.
5 and 6,
Managed to
maybe.
lift up that.
Oh, they just did everything. They were just always doing something, those two. They had an imagination that wouldn't
You just
end.
couldn't believe. I've never seen kids with the imagination that those two would come up with.
One
This
day,
was a big sheep operation here. Well, their sheep barns was all right here. Now they've all cows. That's a nice chute.
but we left over there by Robert's place, and we bought this place. What did we buy, 80 acres?
I think there was 80 in there.
It was these fields right here. And speaking of Ren and their ideas, you know, I used to read them these pilgrim books, you know, about the early pioneer type people. It was a reading book, you know, for a classroom, but oh, they loved the stories.
Singing Wheels.
Singing Wheels was the name of the book. And in that story, they talk about going out and shooting a turkey for Thanksgiving.
Uh-huh.
Well, nothing would do. The Shats had a turkey. And the Shats come over and told us that the kids had killed their turkey. Well, those little buggers went out. Now, how did they kill that turkey?
And bow and arrow.
Well, they went out and killed that turkey.
Yeah, the turkeys had got down in here in this field, and they figured they was just wild turkeys.
They wanted to give us a turkey for Thanksgiving.